Thanks for joining us on the John Mendola Show. We are driven by McCarthy Tire Center. We are joined by Joe Pizano. He is the athletic director at Wyoming area. Joe, important times, a lot of things, a lot of rules in place for athletics, and a lot of challenging decisions for education and athletics here in northeastern Pennsylvania, all across Pennsylvania with the PIAA. Let's talk a little bit about the start and trying to make sure you guys had everything in place to start out in a positive light there at Wyoming area.
Sure. Obviously, this year is nothing like anybody has ever dealt with before. We came up with our COVID waiver. We came up with our resocialization policy that our board adopted and passed in June. From then, we went on to we purchased a new software for paperless physicals and online registration. We had over 300 kids do their physicals online, so there was no paper and no contact with obviously anybody in our school or that. Worked out great. MedExpress, and I'm not throwing any shout outs, but they came out with the PIAA and gave everybody a $15 physical in July. So all the kids, the majority of them, if they couldn't get into their doctors and pay a copay, ended up going through MedExpress for the $15, and we just had a great turnout with that. So, you know, we that was installing something new within our department and our school. It was, you know, it was a challenge in the beginning and working out all the kinks, but everything went through. From there, we put our plan in place from yellow, and then we moved into the green phase, and we went from 25 kids at an outdoor facility to 50. And, you know, we did our temperature checks every day. We did our screenings every day. The only complicated thing that came in this summer was when they went from having Delaware on the non-travel with the 14-day quarantine on Monday to Wednesday. Sorry, that's my dog. From Monday to Wednesday, and then that was removed. So, you know, we had a little bit of challenges there where we sent kids home that Monday and Tuesday, and then we had to call them back on Wednesday, and they had to go through the same channels of, you know, of temperature checks and screenings. Every kid had a mask. Our school provided every kid with a mask. We had our sanitizers. We had wipes. We wiped down helmets, shoulder pads during this heat acclimation. We changed from double sessions to a single, so our kids didn't have to wear the same, you know, sweaty practice jersey. And we did the 3-hour every day, and the kids ended up taking their stuff home, washing it, and that was our procedure, was to then, you know, take it home, wash it, and the next day show up. And everybody, I mean, all summer, our kids got used to that wearing of the masks and going through everything. And I don't believe that it was a problem at all for us. Our kids needed to get together, you know, socially and mentally, and come together in a positive note. And they've been off school for so long, and they were not with, you know, their teammates and everybody else. So the challenging part was trying to get everybody to buy in, and they did. And, you know, it was just something that had to happen where everybody bought into that, So it ran smooth from soccer to volleyball. You know, our volleyball, where it's 25 people inside a facility, we have like 30 some kids on the team. So what we did was our coaches modified their practices, and they bring in 3 groups of 10 or 3 groups of 12. And they do 3 sessions with each group. And when they come in, then they clean the balls in between everything. And listen, to have the sports season and all these kids want it, and everybody knows what it takes, and there's masks on all the time. And, you know, I go over to each sport, and I get there, and, you know, I went yesterday, and our football team has 50 plus kids, and each one of them are sitting around where the coach is talking, and they're all 6 feet apart or more, and they all have their masks on. with their shoulder pads on and their helmets off on one knee, talking to Coach Spencer, who obviously wears his gator all the time because he had some medical issues last year. And it's, you know, hopefully we get through this and on a positive note, we have no issues anywhere.
I talked to Karen Klasner, the athletic director and field hockey coach at Wyoming Seminary, in the last several days. Her team, her field hockey team, they want to wear masks. That's a sport that they're talking about it. I don't know that many other sports are going to do that, but we may see some student athletes that may want to do that in particular sports. And obviously we've seen in both the Lackawanna Conference and programs that have shut down fall sports respectfully. And, you know, you have to look at this whole thing, whether it's the educator's approach, the parents' approach, the student athletes' approach, the community approach. But we just saw another school here, or first school in the Wyoming Valley Conference shut down. But you're saying it. You're saying, listen, the student athletes are taking this seriously. The coaches are taking this seriously. We're just all, I think, in the sports world, hopeful that this could all happen. At the same time, know that there's a lot of opinions out there, and everybody's got one on this whole matter. But I think everybody's trying their best to take it very slowly here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you saw Hanover voted tonight to drop their fall sports. Abington Heights dropped theirs. It went by, you know, certain conferences and leagues, and we had a game scheduled for week 2 with Southern Columbia, and we were notified last week that the Heartland Conference voted no out of conference games. You know, again, it's a touchy subject, and you're not going to be right or wrong which side you're on. Everybody has their opinions, but I think with safety in mind, our school board was very supportive, and our administration to say, listen, you know, if even though we're not in school, so to speak, because we're virtual until November, our groups are small, and we're containing our kids to those groups that, you know, obviously that we can control. And everybody seems to be following those CDC guidelines and our school procedures. So it's you know, we're just hoping that everybody follows the same rules across the board. We can't micromanage every single kid, what they do at night and who they hang out with. But from, you know, I have kids in 2 programs here at Wyoming area, in football and field hockey, and those kids congregate with each other. So not only are they with those kids in the day at their practices, but then at night, someone goes over someone else's house, but it's those same 7 kids who, you know, or 10 kids who are together all the time. So having those groups kind of stick together rather than going out and hanging out with, you know, students from other school districts and not taking the same approach. I think that our kids understand where our focus is, and just try to be, you know, as positive and make sure that they're following everything as possible for these kids to get a chance. We still might not even go, you know, I mean, there might be an outbreak in 2 weeks somewhere, and then you know, that team is quarantined for 14 days. And if that happens, you know, you might lose 2 games that week. So kids know this, coaches know this, schools know this, and that's our, you know, that's our step by step and day-to-day protocol, that you could only live for today to practice and to be with everybody, because things can change tomorrow, and they're all aware of that.
We reflect back to last year and that football season. A lot of decisions to be made last year. You guys said, listen, we're going to put Southern Columbia on the schedule. And then you guys had a season to remember in that community, and a state championship to remember, for that matter. Talk a little bit about how you go from that and those feelings, of course, to all the things we just talked about, and the way things here have started out in 2020.
Yeah, you know, I mean, jokingly, when all this happened, as a staff, we jokingly, you know, said, hey, if we don't have a season, we're going to be proclaimed back-to-back state champions. I don't think a lot of people like that, but it was obviously it was a little joke between ourselves and whatnot. But the game that we scheduled last year was definitely the game. It was the season changing pivotal point in our season where, you know, we knew we were playing the best team in the country, and it was going to be the only way for us to truly gauge our kids and to let our kids play in a big time game. Our kids got done with that game. I mean, I could tell you right now, when Jim Roth first called me and I reached out and, you know, touched all the bases that I had to, and then I went to the kids and I brought them in a room and said, all right, guys, listen, here's our opportunity, but I want to know before I go through this, do you want to play Southern Columbia? And before I could even get that out, Dom DeLuca was jumping up and down and couldn't wait, and Sammy Solomon and Ambrosino and FJ Bercini and, you know, all those kids, Caleb Graham, and I know I'm forgetting them, the Russin kid, you know, and I know there's more that I'm forgetting. Number one, our Darren Rodney. Like, these kids lived to play the game of football, and that was from the time they were 5 years old. And I think that for the past 5 years, Southern Columbia was Southern Columbia. They're like the New England Patriots of high school football. So once our kids had that opportunity, they were so fired up. And then when it got shot down and we were going through different things, and, you know, I reached out to our state representatives, and Aaron Koffer helped, and John Udicek helped, and our school boards made phone calls, and our superintendents and principals. I mean, it was just an effort by everybody to get the game going. And yeah, we ended up getting beat, but at the same time, when that game was over, our kids knew that from that week going forward that we could play anybody and beat anybody. So whether people wanted to downgrade it and say it was the worst move you ever made, we could have been you know, undefeated in our conference, or we could. I don't think that we would have had the same turnout that we did last year if we didn't play that game personally.
Well, it's great to reflect on what you guys were able to accomplish with the state championship. Of course, Dallas being second in the state, a great job by that program as well. And of course, Southern Columbia winning a state championship, and Jim Roth and what he's done over the years, one of the best coaches. But Joe, it's great to catch up with you, talk a little Wyoming area athletics. I'm glad to see what you're doing there with your athletic programs. And we wish the best in safety and health and positivity to your community there at WA.
Appreciate it. Thanks, John.